This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, everyone. Before we get started, I do want to speak to the agenda. Some of the projects that were on the agenda have been pulled. That's St. Joe's Solar and then Parkland School District Transportation Center. So if anyone's here tonight for those projects, we won't be going over them, but we do have courtesy of the floor, so anyone can ask questions, or if they have any comments for those projects, they can speak up as well. I'm assuming a lot of people here tonight are for the data center project. That is not on the agenda tonight. That was on the agenda probably 1 or 2 months ago, and they, similar to items B, C, and D tonight, they pulled from the agenda. Typically, what happens is the developer will submit land development plans to the township, and we have township staff, township engineering, there's a township lighting consultant, geotech consultant, traffic consultant, so forth and so on, and they review the plans, provide a lot of comments. My assumption is they've gotten probably a lot of comments and they need to clean up the plans, address the comments, get the plans into a better place before they're ready to submit. So that's what I'm assuming is happening with that project, but it's not on the agenda. But if you look at agenda number 8, courtesy of the floor, everyone can have an opportunity to speak at that time. We'll go over some of the rules of the meeting. Just we need to follow an orderly process. People just need to take turns. Everyone can't speak at the same time. But with that being said, we'll like to introduce Kent.
Yes, so tonight we have Kent Baird is here. He is the new Director of Development. I will be assuming the role of Director of Planning. We essentially took the role of Director of Community Development and split it into 2 roles. I'll be focusing more on the planning side. Kent will be focusing more on the land development side. Happy to have him on board. I, on a personal note, get to do more of what I enjoy doing. So I'm really thrilled about that and happy to help Kent with the land development, getting him up to speed. So future meetings, you'll see me if I'm talking about planning, but if it's land development only, Kent will be here.
Great. Welcome, Kent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I look forward to spending time with you all. I know some of you in different capacities over the years. You and I have met at different functions. You might not remember, but I'm remembering that the years of my work in South Whitehall happened to also include Tim Dugan here. And I spent some time working at Wildlands Conservancy with his great wife, and what a great organization. And he's committed to this township in a big way now. I see that. So I'm happy to be here, happy to help and answer questions about my background and anything going forward. If somebody wants to get coffee, I'm up for that too. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Great. All right. Well, we called to order. If everyone can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Wilk, would you like to do the roll call?
Yes. Trevor Dombach.
Here.
Tim Dugan.
Here.
Todd Farringer. Not here. Brian Height.
Here.
Diane Kelly. Not here. Mark Luth.
Here.
David Wilson.
Here. I'd also like to make note of township staff and consultants here tonight. April Wilk, Land Development Coordinator, Chris Stroller, Long Range Planner, Dave Manhart, Director of Planning, Kent Baird, Director of Development and Zoning Officer. Aaron Bett with the Pidcock Company, Township Engineer. Jennifer Aldifer, Director of Legal Services. All right, Ms. Wilk, would you like to go over the meeting rules?
Sure. Rules for participation and etiquette during Planning Commission meetings. For an orderly meeting wherein all attendees may be able to fully participate, we ask that you adhere to the following rules. In order that both in-person and remote attendees may hear all comments or questions, all in-person attendees will be required to use microphones at all times. We request that remote attendees please mute your microphone or telephone to avoid background noise that may cause interference in the meeting and make it difficult for others to hear. Staff may mute microphones of remote attendees if needed. Public questions and comments will be taken at periodic intervals throughout the agenda. We will start with no time limits, but the Planning Commission Chairman may impose a time limitation if there are many questions or the meeting is running short on time. For in-person attendees, please raise your hand to be recognized, then move to the podium when directed. State your name, address, and comment or question. For remote attendees, the chat box features will be active throughout the meeting. If you have a comment or question, please type your full name and address in the chat box. When you are recognized and so directed, please unmute your microphone and state your question or comment. Mute your microphone when done. Your cooperation and adherence to these rules will ensure an orderly and respectful meeting.
Thank you. All right, we're on agenda item number 3, review and approval of the December 11 meeting minutes. Does anyone have any comments?
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
I'll second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? None opposed, so moved. All right, we're on agenda item number 4, subdivision review. Like we have Chase Bank on the agenda. Ms. Bett, would you like to do, or sorry, Kent Baird, or is Dave doing the?
I'll start this. I don't want to throw him in the deep end just yet.
Okay. All right.
So this is an application to further develop the property located at 1603 North Cedar Crest Boulevard. The plan is proposing the addition of a dumpster location and a sidewalk connection to Cedar Crest Boulevard. The property is served by existing public water and public sewer, zoned general commercial. Roma 2 Trust is the owner and Bowler Engineer is the applicant. The packets indicate that we were not recommending approval. We did a little bit of research and pending one of the saldo waiver requests, we will recommend approval. There was a parking issue that was holding that up. We resolved that. We dug through our files and found previous determinations that helped rectify that issue. There are conditions of approval attached. The usual condition, there's not a lot different with this project. It's a pretty small project in scope. That I think we can hand it over to Aaron.
As Dave has mentioned, this project is a little unique to what we typically see for a preliminary final plan. We did review it in the sketch phase, and then they came through with a preliminary final plan. The comments in our letter are relative to ensuring that the frontage improvements have been provided. I actually spoke with Amanda, the design engineer, yesterday, and we went through the comments, and she's understanding of what we were asking for in the letter. So typically with a standard preliminary final land development plan, we do require frontage improvements. In this case, this intersection along Cedar Crest and Walbert was just renovated as part of the Ridge Farms PennDOT improvements. So we understand that the frontage improvements are met, sidewalks, cartway widening, right of way, street trees, all of that. We just want them to further clarify it on their plan. There are 4 waiver requests that they had produced as part of their application. 2 are very specific to showing existing features within the surrounding area. Dependent upon them agreeing that they show these items on their plan as we had asked within the body of our memo, we have no engineering objection. There are 2 other waiver requests that were asked for, and that would be the recording of a plan and also posting of security. We do not support those waiver requests as it is a land development plan submission. We like to see that recorded because it's appearing in front of the Planning Commission and will go to the board. And also security, it is small, but we would still like it to be posted. Other than that, we have no engineering. We recommend engineering approval.
Great. Thank you. Would you like to just state your name and your relation for the project for the record?
Yeah, it's good evening. My name is Bob Careless. I'm an attorney at Cozen O'Connor. I'm here with Amanda Albano from Bowler. We represent JP Morgan Chase Bank. That was a great summary. If I just offer a few comments, first with the waivers, again, this was the 2 waivers that are recommended for denial. We're not going to oppose that. The rationale for that really was just lawyers making everything worse, but it was so much to save time on the back end for the post approval. This is really more building permit work. It's minor grading, but we understand it triggers land development. We understand the precedent, so certainly not looking to make an issue there. If the engineer would like to see a plan sheet recorded to confirm the public improvements, we have no fight there. And again, also fine. I know it'll be a small amount of probably estimated probable cost, posting security, not an issue there as well. And I note the flexibility in the recommended conditions that maybe we might not need to have an improvements to security agreement that goes with that. We can talk. The solicitor and I can speak about that if it's warranted or not. Again, not looking to make a major issue out of this. It's a very small project. We'll probably spend more time going back and forth on things, and to save the time on the back end, it probably just doesn't make sense or really a wash. So again, not looking to make a huge issue out of anything. With respect to, I really think the complexity of this project is more about that it triggers more code sections than it probably is relevant to the application. Your staff and consultants have been wonderful to work with. I think the takeaways, we'll continue to work with them to satisfy the letters so that we get a clean plan back in front of the Board of Commissioners. So I think we'll comply with most of the letters. We're just continuing to work with the engineer to figure out whether we need to submit supplemental waivers for aspects of the SWT that really aren't really necessary here, given the minor scope of the project. So we're happy to answer any questions you have, but I think the takeaway is we're moving in the right direction with staff. And again, it's a small, very limited scope project, so hopefully, we'll get it. We'll get there.
Thank you.
All right.
Anyone?
So I actually have a question.
Go ahead.
I had posed a question in email earlier this week to Amanda regarding the easements.
Okay.
And I don't think it affects any recommendation tonight, but I am curious about if you have identified those easement holders and if you have consent for those already, because in my view, it impacts the approval conditions.
Yeah. Yeah, we have. I thank you for reminding me of that. So we will comply with that comment. We will provide a copy of the easement. We had to go through our surveyor to get our understanding is that we're not going to encroach into any sort of restrictions of the easement. Obviously affecting the utilities underneath, but we will get a copy, submit that, and by the time we go for hopefully plan approval, that will be squared away.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we're looking to do 2 waivers and a conditional with 17 conditions?
Yes.
And the two waivers, if I'm looking at Kent's letter, are number 1 and 2, 3 and 4. They're actually going to not ask for waivers for 3 and 4 on Kent's letter, page 49 and 48. So to show all the utilities, number 1, number 2, 400 feet and everything around it.
Yeah.
48 and
40,
49.
49.
Yeah, you're right. 48 and 49.
48 and 49. 1 and 2, you'll see at the bottom where we say, as long as the information is provided. There's comments within our letter that suggest, right of way be shown or the cartway width, be dimensioned. That's what we're referring to in the memo. As long as they are able to address those items that we have mentioned within our memo, we have no engineering objection to that waiver, both of those waivers.
This-
So I think the comment there would
Yeah.
be, we would hope the recommended for the grant of the waiver subject to compliance or satisfaction of the township engineer's letter, which those comments are embedded.
Yeah, so my understanding is all the frontage improvements in terms of the cartway widening, the sidewalk, the trees, curbs, so forth and so on, that's all been constructed as part of the large Ridge Farm project. So it's all out there. You just need to show it
Correct.
on the plan. So if you do a right to know or coordinate with the engineer that did the Ridge Farm project, you can get that info and just depict it on the plans. The waivers, one of the typical waiver requests of showing existing features within 400 feet and whatnot. So other than the stuff that Aaron is requesting that you're obliging to show, seems pretty straightforward.
I did speak with Amanda, their design engineer, yesterday, and I had mentioned a right to know could be requested by the township to obtain those plans to make sure that information's on the plan as well.
Okay. And just to, clarify the scope of work on this project, it's pretty much just providing sidewalk connection from the sidewalk along the street to the bank.
Correct.
And a garbage dumpster back in the property. And that's pretty much it. So the bank's already there. Yeah. Okay. Anyone have any questions?
So do we have to do anything with 3 and 4 on 49? Because they're no longer asking for it.
We'll just withdraw those waiver requests. We'll work with the engineer. If it's a plan sheet that we want to record, not a problem. And I'll just work with the solicitor on what's appropriate for, we don't need to make things more complicated, then we'll just pull those waivers.
Does anyone have any questions or want to make a motion on the waivers? Oh, is there any public comment? Seems like a no. Is there anyone online that has any comments about the project? There's 2 waiver requests for depicting some items on the plan sheets.
I'm not seeing anything in the chat.
Okay. Anyone want to make a motion?
Make a motion to grant the waiver for Saldo 312-12.b parentheses 19. As requiring the provision show location, size, transmission lines, but we'll say as satisfied to the township engineer. I'll second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Those opposed? None opposed? So moved. Anyone want to make a motion on the second waiver request?
Motion to grant Saldo 312-12.b21, requiring the provision to show the location and widths of all sidewalks, trails, driveways, streets, easements, and any rights of way platted or existing within the subdivision within 400 feet of any part of the subdivision.
I'll second that. I think we have a lot of detail.
Within
Going on
400
in that
feet,
area.
yeah.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? None opposed? So moved. All right, those were the waiver requests. I believe there were a number of conditions. Does anyone have any questions or comments in the audience? I just want to check again or online. Okay. So the conditions are listed on 53. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for conditional approval based on page 53 of the March 12th planning packet, items 1 through 17 as listed by township staff.
Second. Those in favor? Aye. Aye. Those opposed? None opposed? So moved.
Good
Good luck.
Good time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're on agenda item number 5, transportation infrastructure update.
I'll start. We had mentioned previously, Mock Chuck Road is receiving signal improvements. That construction was slated to start in the beginning of March. You'll drive by there, you'll see some markings from the one call. So you might see some of that construction start moving forward, as well as paving operations. With the warm weather, things are taking a turn. So wearing course is able to go down beginning April 1st. That's all I have. Dave, do you have anything?
Not really. We have some transportation planning that we're looking to get kicked off. Hamilton Lincoln. We have the Arley grant for the Hamilton Lincoln intersection. They're upgrading the lights and adding bus landing pads and the ADA ramps. The lights traffic signals will be upgraded to coordinate with some of the lower McCungie lights. So they'll be on the same system and we can coordinate with them to hopefully address some of the flow in Hamilton. That project's underway. So they've been out there working on those lights. Eventually we'll have a new intersection, hopefully by the end of the summer.
All right. Thank you. All right. Agenda item number 6, draft annual report.
So the annual report in your packet, it looks like only the spreadsheet got attached. What we typically go over for the annual report is a summary of the activities of the Planning Commission. And what essentially, it's just an accounting and a reporting. The one thing that we like to go over with the Planning Commission before we send it to the Board of Commissioners is goals and aspirations. I have the 2025 goals and aspirations up. Continue educational outreach and to the community and promote the proposed 2025 Land Development 101 public event, which I don't think happened. Continue ongoing Planning Commission member education under direction of the BOC. Continue to implement, prioritize.
Sorry, what page is this on?
It's not in the packet. Okay. So under direction of the BOC, continue to implement, prioritize actions as described in the implementation action plan of the comprehensive plan. Adopt the Jordan Valley open space zoning overlay. Adopt the South Whitehall transportation plan. Start official map update. So those have not been started. We kind of got the Jordan Valley overlay that kind of pushed to the side burner. We had to get the PERT adopted, so we had some regulations in place for the data center. So there's Unfortunately, there's not much we can check off that list from last year, but if there are any suggestions on things to include, we can include that in the annual report. Later on the agenda, we also have the reexamination report, which is where we get into some of the bigger topics and things to think about. So again, with regards to the annual report, we can just use the 2025 goals and just put 2026 on them. And then we can get into reprioritizing some of the actions that we'll discuss as when we talk about the reexamination report. So any comments on the 2025/2026 goals and aspirations?
Put your 25s into 26.
Yeah.
And if anybody has anything to add to 26?
I had one thought, and I haven't discussed this with my fellow members, but I would like to see the township look into requiring renderings and elevations of land development plans. There's multiple municipalities that require that, including the one that I work for in the city of Allentown. And I think it would just give more perspective to the public and this board and the planning commissioners to see what a building's actually going to look like. A lot of times we already get those, but to require it, I think would be a step forward for transparency and give the public a perspective of what may be coming. They're not perfect. Sometimes they change due to market conditions, but at least you give us some scale. Like I wish we would have had one for when we talked about the school down here next to the Islamic Center.
Mm-hmm.
That would have gave us more perspective of the orientation on the land.
So there are a few things in the works that you'll probably see at the next meeting that kind of address some of that. But also some of the reason we brought Kent in is so that we can I can start focusing on saldo updates. And that's something that we can certainly incorporate into those updates. We'll talk about that a little bit more on the reexamination report.
Yeah, I think it's important to note though, aesthetics are a personal choice and the elevations aren't necessarily enforceable, similar to prints. But yeah, it's always a helpful thing to the public to get an idea.
Especially when you're talking multiple level buildings.
Sure.
And that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and usually developers and architects have a book of past projects they can bring. So it's not going to be an exact replica, but close, in the ballpark.
That's all I had. Thank you.
I would just say on the continuing education piece for commissioners, unless it's in the township budget to be reimbursed, no commissioners are probably going to eat the $100 or $200
so
to
we
do
can-
it. So if it's not in the budget, I would consider taking it off as a goal.
So
because it's
if anybody's interested in taking
It's not
it,
a video, it's just the audio.
if any commissioners are interested in classes, just shoot us an email and we'll see what we can do with the budget.
Yeah, because I do recall not when I first joined the commission, one of the asks of me was to go do classes. So I did that.
Yeah.
But then the following year, when I wanted to round it out, it was a no.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of gone back.
So last year I just kind of like didn't say anything.
We can
I know it's not a you thing. It's a budget thing, but
we can reach out and we'll talk about it and look at it. And that goes for any commissioner. We haven't had many take us up on it. So that's kind of why we haven't really addressed it. So you're kind of, pat you on the back there.
yeah, well, yeah. I mean, not the, some of our backgrounds, we're probably good, but since it was brought up to me during my interview, take them up on it. Yeah. That's all I have. I would, like I said, take it off if it's not practical. We can come up with a better goal.
All right, anything else about the draft annual report?
So I can change those dates. I don't know, should we have it come back and then don't bring it back?
I think you're fine.
Okay.
Well,
Again, it's really more of an accounting of projects that we looked at, and that's all in the tables.
All right, agenda item number 7. Oh, sorry. Do we?
I would,
Okay.
yes,
Oh, yeah.
exactly.
Maybe as discussed.
I'll make a motion to send the annual report as discussed
I'll
here
second.
tonight.
Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? None opposed, so moved. All right, agenda item number 7, review of the draft comp plan reexamination report.
So just as a reminder, we've been doing reexamination reports. This came out of the 2023 comprehensive plan. Some of the comments going through that effort were revolved around how did we do, what did we do with the comprehensive plan? So we really started looking at the reexamination report as an annual opportunity to go through a series of questions and kind of see if there's anything that priorities should change or topics that come up that we should redirect priorities and make those recommendations to the Board of Commissioners. This year, there was a lot this year. The previous years were pretty small. There wasn't a lot to really discuss, but these are some of the items, and I'll let Chris kind of elaborate. Some of the things that came up this year that we think should be incorporated into the reexamination report. And tonight we're just looking for feedback on those and whether we have agreement to put those in the reexamination report or if there's something else that we could put in. And I'll hand it over to Chris.
Thank you, Dave. So just to clarify for the commission, in your report is a copy of the 2025 reexamination report that you guys adopted last year that covered 2024, just as an example. The 2026 matrix that we sent out has those topics that Dave mentioned are probably something that we as staff and certainly this commission has seen of potential change in the past few years. You probably remember when we would ask the questions of what of substance has changed that would cause us to revisit the comprehensive plan or make shifts to reprioritization of implementation items. There wasn't a lot of change in the past couple of years, but we've certainly identified a few now. Starting with housing, I think many of us have been involved with the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission's housing supply and attainability strategy, or at least seen that or heard of that. That has more direct impacts on how we should be planning for housing units. We did have an item in our implementation plan that was on a lower priority to address housing. So it might be something to think about bumping that up on the priority list and working with that attainability strategy. At the same time, just recently, the state has released their housing action plan with several key initiatives, not just at a state level, but a few of those focused on municipalities, talking about updating codes. There's a number of housing bills, House bills out right now related to housing that could impact some of our land use planning. Data centers, obviously a big hot topic, not just in the coming to the area, planning for that, also kind of what we can take away from the current project that is in place from what we've been seeing and getting a little bit more of an example to look at. So some of the potential actions that we as staff have talked about related to that is looking at the PERT ordinance, and if we want to talk about amendments to the PERT ordinance If you recall, that was drafted last summer. Certainly since last summer to now, there's a lot more information out there related to data centers, and we can look at amendments to that ordinance. And then also, we had talked about in the comprehensive plan energy conservation as, again, one of those lower priority initiatives at the time when that was put together. We might want to revisit that implementation item as it relates to the proliferation of data centers, not just the township project, but regionally, and work with some other environmental-based implementation items on that. As far as regional economic development, the Eli Lilly facility coming in is not in our township, but very close to our township, has large potential impacts, particularly from a housing perspective. And it might be something we want to consider in any of the housing studying that we are doing, being a neighboring residential community to that site. Also traffic and transportation, obviously. Development review process. We've talked about, I think tonight was a great example with the Chase Bank project, just looking at the what our existing codes allow for, how we're reviewing projects, and if there's potential amendments that we would like to make to the saldo process. Looking at more appropriate review timelines for smaller projects. And I think also kind of to the point of what was just mentioned about wanting to give the public more information on not just the land development process, but specific projects, and making that easier to understand than looking at just maybe the 2D plan of a meeting night. Looking at trying to implement a land development tracker or something on the township website that we can have a lot more, I'd say, user-friendly information on active land development projects and identifying which stage they're in. So I know that's something that Dave's been working on pretty hard over the past 2 weeks, and I think that's something we're excited to kind of unveil with the Planning Commission and the public. Open space and natural resources. We've adopted the South Whitehall Landscapes Plan. We've been implementing a lot of pieces of that, including getting the Environmental Advisory Council to full capacity and having them kind of get more on the ground with their work plan. And the open space referendum was adopted last year, and the EIT tax increase was effective as of this year. So we're starting to generate money off of that. We also talked about the Jordan Valley zoning overlay work that we were working on pretty hard the past year or so, and getting back into that now that the PERT has been adopted. So there's a number of implementation items out of the landscapes plan that we felt are very appropriate to kind of move forward now that we have that planning in place, and it should be reflected in our codes and the zoning ordinance, and that also ties into updating the official map. Similar to the landscapes plan, which I talked about historic preservation, at the end of last year, we adopted the historic resources inventory, identifying 140 features that are potentially locally significant to township history. And it's appropriate for us to start to get through the process of applying more specific designation to those sites, to classify them in the classifications we've identified in that planning document, and to make sure our codes and ordinances reflect the same preservation goals and are not a hindrance to preservation of those sites, allowing for things like adaptive reuse and ensuring that historic properties can be maintained in their historic aesthetic. Transportation, we've adopted phase 1 of the plan, which talked about priority safety corridors and our active transportation network. We've talked a little bit with this board about phase 2, which has been completed. That was the more of the data analysis piece of looking at large data systems to identify functional road classifications how those overlay with the context surrounding them, and identifying how we can reclassify roadways based on both function and character. So it's a priority to potentially update the saldo and our mini specs associated with that to reflect some of those classifications. And then again, have that memorialized on the township official map. And then the zoning ordinance really kind of looking at the zoning ordinance and having the public understand the zoning ordinance. I think this really came up a lot with the PERT adoption of the PERT ordinance and the overlay, and getting a sense of how much the public maybe understands about what zoning districts are, where they are, and what can be built there. So maybe looking at a way to streamline the process for people to better understand our zoning ordinance. So those are just a number of big changes that we've seen that could potentially impact things. But I think tonight we're looking for feedback on, did we cover everything? Is there something big that we're missing? And just to get direction for staff to put together that draft report similar to what's in the rest of your packet that we would bring back next month for review.
Anyone have comments or questions?
I think it's pretty good. I would pivot from just a data center or pharmaceutical headline and just change it to like high power development or something, like high usage or high utility usage, because in an industrial or light manufacturing or logistics district, it's not just data centers that use power. It's cold storage, it's heavy manufacturing, and it's even traditional warehouses. As these facilities transition to more automation and robotics, the power just goes up to where you'll see similar power usage that a small data center would use. Not this Project Atlas, but 20 megawatt data center is the same as a cold storage building. So that'd be my only consideration, is there's hyperscale data centers. That's what Project Atlas is, but then there's kind of like a lower and mid tier that are just as impactful to these zoning districts.
Yeah, we can make that change. I think the column on the left is really the things that we know have come in that have changed, or things that have caused us to start to think about something. But I think what I'm hearing, Trevor, is the identifying, as far as our implementation of this, looking at energy conservation as it maybe relates to our codes and how we're planning for things in the context of different types of land development. It's not just data centers, obviously.
Just like high power, like power, energy, utility usage.
Thank you.
Anyone have anything else?
So what we'll do is we'll package it up like we did with the 2025, and then we can talk about prioritizing that list at the next meeting.
Great. All right, we're on agenda number 8, courtesy of the floor. Before we get started, once again, I just want to reiterate, safety is very important. So it's imperative we follow an orderly process. We take turns. Please do not speak over each other, and everyone will have an opportunity to talk. So when you come to the podium, just please state your name and address for the record, and we'll give everyone an opportunity to speak.
I would like to make a correction before we get started. I believe the incorrect copy of the revised rules that were adopted last year were read at the beginning of the meeting. So while it stated there's no time limit, there is in fact a 5-minute time limit. Okay.
All right, it's all yours.
I think it's on. Is it on? Yes. Hi, I'm Julie Thomasis, 4127 Shoemaker Place in Whitehall. and I have some comments. South Whitehall, I'm sorry. Thank you. I have some comments about the data center. I'm very concerned about the noise that will be created by this data center during normal operations and in emergency situations, such as during a power outage. There are three main sources of significant sound: 356 generators, 1,056 rooftop chillers, and an on-site substation. The PERT ordinance specifies a noise limit of 57 decibels at the property line, calculated as a 24-hour average during normal operations. However, impulsive noise from routine maintenance or emergency situations is specifically excluded from the calculation. Routine maintenance includes backup generator testing, which is to occur on weekdays, excluding holidays, between the hours of 9 and 5. So up to 25% of the 356 backup generators can be running at one time for testing. And when, not if, there is a power outage, all 356 generators will be running for an extended period of time, and that will create a lot of noise for a long time. There will also be 1,056 rooftop chiller units with fans on these buildings. The noise from these chillers and the substation is an all the time base load, since they'll be running continuously to cool the computers and regulate the energy flow to the building. Add to that the noise from the generators during testing and power outages, and the noise level will be disruptive not only to the students at nearby schools, but also the neighbors surrounding the data center. And that is just the dBA sound level, which is basically what you can hear. There's a second level measurement, which is decibels related to carrier. I think that's dBc, that is used to capture low frequency noise that you may not be able to hear, but you will be able to feel as a vibration. High levels of dBc sound are created by heavy machinery like chiller units. There is nothing in the noise study that addresses the noise, the dBc noise that the data center will create. The data center plan calls for an acoustic wall around the generators and panels surrounding the rooftop chillers. The noise study completed by the applicant does not provide a convincing argument that these structures will adequately mitigate the noise coming from the data center. The study relies on additional sound dampening from an 18-foot-high berm that will surround the site. The berm will be useless to the properties along Mok Chunk Road, which is set significantly lower than the elevation of the data center. The study also suggests that 2 of the buildings should be equipped with 20-foot-high panels around the chillers instead of the 6-foot-high panels on the remaining buildings. Those two buildings will then exceed the height limit in the PERT ordinance. That's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Hi, good evening. My name is Marsha Armstrong. I live at 4043 Daubert Drive in South Whitehall. Couple more noise concerns about the content of the noise study particularly. The PERT ordinance requires that the study be completed by a licensed professional engineer specializing in acoustics or an engineer who is board certified by the Institute of Noise Control Engineers. Please confirm that Tad Hardy of Kimley Horn, who prepared the study, possesses those qualifications. Next, the PERT ordinance requires the applicant to measure existing ambient noise at a minimum of 3 locations. The submitted study only includes existing ambient noise measurements at 2 locations, neither of which is on Mok Chunk Road side of the property. The noise from the surrounding roadways, Cedar Crest Boulevard, Mock Chunk Road, and Orfield Road was not included in the analysis. Why not? The noise is there and it will be there when the data center is operational. So it's additional to the data center noise. The noise generated by the substation is basically written off in the study with the following language. Noise generated from the substations is not anticipated to significantly contribute to the operational project noise and is expected to be kept under the noise limits by the distance provided to the noise-sensitive receptors. I think that a study like this should include the aggregate effects of all sources of noise, not just the ones the applicant wants to include. The study does not address DBC sound and its consequent vibrations. The study must be modified to address the issue of incessant and damaging vibration, which has been reported by data center neighbors across the United States. And finally, the PERT ordinance requires the applicant to identify noise-sensitive populations within 500 feet of the property line. This identification is not included in the study. When the noise-sensitive populations are identified, what are the remedies for any impact on them? Noise-sensitive populations include creatures that exist in nature. They contribute to our quality of life, and impacts on them must also be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to let everyone know this is recorded, so the township staff will have everything you say and take it into account. So,
Can I make an observation though? Are you all going to come and read the same speeches when the data center is actually on that evening? Okay, so I'm just wondering why it would be important to read them twice, but okay, have at it.
all right.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening about the data center as well. Data centers require emergency generators to
Excuse
ensure.
me, sir. Could you please identify your name and
John
address, please?
Castaldo, 4016 Daubert Drive, South Whitehall Township. Data centers require emergency generators to ensure that they remain operational in power outages. The online proposal delineates 356 diesel-fueled Tier 2 generators. And I have several concerns regarding the generators, the operation, and their impact on the community that I'd like to speak to. First is regarding diesel fuel. How much diesel fuel will be stored in the tanks on site? And are they planned for above or below ground? A 500 kilowatt generator consumes 35 gallons of diesel per hour at full load. A 1,000 gallon tank of diesel would theoretically provide about 38 hours of runtime, which is what is usually needed if there's a power outage. Can we assume that each of the 356 generators will require a 1,000 gallon tank to supply them, or roughly 356,000 gallons stored on site for backup? Will fuel tanks be double walled with leak detection systems? How often are fuel deliveries expected? What precautions can be taken to prevent hazardous fuel spills? And will the spill prevention control and countermeasure plan be available for public review as part of the permitting process? Now, with regard to toxic pollutants, diesel generators unfortunately emit noxious gases, which include nitrogen oxides, hydrocarbons, carbon monoxide, volatile organic compounds, which negatively impact human health and the environment. Will these generators be run for more than 60 minutes per month, for example, for testing? In addition to the generators, there'll be 1,000 or more air-cooled rooftop chillers equipped with fans. And these also produce significant amount of heat, greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide. Not only do these greenhouse gases contribute to global warming, but they are also linked to heat-related illness, respiratory issues, and other health problems. Will the applicant be required to commit dispersion modeling, the generator and chiller emissions during tested and extended operations? There are 4,200 students attending Parkland High School, Kratzer Elementary School, Ironton Elementary School within 2 miles of the proposed data center. I worry about the adverse health risks to schools, children, families, residents, and businesses around the data center who will be exposed intermittently to the toxic diesel pollutants. Finally, natural gas and propane. The Planning Commission has recommended Tier 4 emergency generators in your proposal, which produce far fewer toxic pollutants compared to Tier 2 diesel engines. Will the township insist on Tier 4 models? And if not, why not? Have natural gas or liquid propane generators been considered, as they run considerably cleaner than diesel? In summary, I'm concerned about environmental pollution from Tier 2 diesel fuel generators and the chillers, which have the potential of adversely affecting the health of school children and residents in the area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Daniel Pereski, 4127 Shoemaker Place here in South Whitehall. Thank you all for allowing us to make these presentations and for taking such a strong interest in it. And I'm glad to hear from that on that this township is working to make the information about the progress of this and other land use projects easier for us in the public to follow, and getting all of that kind of coordinated on a single page or pages that are easily linked one to another. That's going to be really helpful as more and more people start attending these meetings. It's already creating a tremendous amount of interest. There's petitions out there already with over 1,000 signatures, and eventually those people are going to end up showing up here, imagine, in mass. And you want to be able to make it as easy for them to have good information so they don't be bothering you with bad information. Anyway, I'm here to talk about water and the project and wastewater especially. This project proposes to use sand mounds to treat the sewage. Sand mounds are generally not recommended in regions like ours, that are underlain with karst, by karst. Partially treated sanitary sewage in a karst environment could flow directly through the cracks and the fissures in the karst, especially into groundwater and wells. And with the vibrations from the chiller units and the generators, it's going to make it even easier for water to find its way down, for sewage to find its way into our drinking water. The applicant has requested a waiver from the township that the township is requiring them to include a sewage disposal system report as part of their preliminary plan, because they're looking for a waiver because they have not yet completed the testing requirement to design a functioning and safe mound system. I don't know whether they've come to you yet for this waiver, and hopefully you will not approve it. This is central to the safety of our water, that they submit to you the plan on how they're going to treat it. If it turns out that the proposed locations will support the plan, the sand mounds, you're also going to need backup ones because they only last so long, and sometimes they don't last as long as they're designed for. So you're going to need that, which is an additional challenge for you. Right now, the way I understand it, they're using air chillers to cool the machines, and in many sites they use water, millions of gallons of water. This system is using air chillers instead. Just to be careful. They may come back and want a backup system that uses groundwater, and be on the lookout for that, because I don't think you're going to be able to find enough groundwater here in this location to be able to satisfy a hyperscale data center. I've got a minute and 20 seconds left. So I was reading an article today in today's paper that gave me caution, and it's about a Berks County warehouse that has years of unresolved construction issues. Now, 5 years they've been after the developer to take care of water runoff issues. And they've given them 9 extensions. And it's a Texas outfit that's doing the development, and they continue to postpone and not do the work. And what got me really scared is when it says, it should be noted that upon termination of a state permit necessary for construction, that all maintenance requirements will be borne by the township. You probably know this. When the termination of a state permit comes about for construction, that after that permit expires, the township is responsible for all the maintenance. That scared the hell out of me. And because it's going to fall on all of us. So anyway, thank you. You're doing a great job. And I'm really thrilled to be able to come here and see all these professionals doing such great work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I'm at 4016 Daubert Drive. I thank you for allowing me to share with you concerns regarding the data center, specifically the electric power demand. Data centers use an enormous amount of electricity, and the supply for this one would come from the PJM interconnection, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland. And it serves all residential, commercial, and industrial users in the Lehigh Valley, as well as beyond. The grid, however, is already struggling to generate and provide sufficient power in its service area, and even without the data center, has predicted a possible shortfall of electric power by the summer of 2027. The PJM service area includes Northern Virginia, Metro DC area, which already contains the largest concentration of data centers in the world. You guys aren't scary. I'm just, it's a little nerve-wracking. Where is all the energy to power this proposed data center going to come from, and what will be the impact on local residents? Will South Whitehall Township insist on the will South Whitehall Township insist that the Atlas complies with the governor's responsible infrastructure development principle from Shapiro of bringing your own electricity? And if not, why not? Many data centers do have their own generation plants, not just building substations. Will there be rolling brownouts because of the heightened power demands and the data center will require? Might fossil fuel plants that have been retired be brought back online? And we know that they cause additional pollution. Will an increase in the price of electricity be likely because of the data center? Congress.gov published an article January 23rd of this year, which states that as of the end of 2024, which is the most recent year for which full year data are available, 2 regions of the country did have affected electric rates due to the data center demand. In part of the counties served by the grid operator PJM, of which we are a part, electricity rates increased up to 20% the summer of 2025. Those are our electric bills, reflecting in part an expected increase in demand for electricity from data centers. Bloomberg Technology 2025 published an article, AI data centers are sending power bills soaring, where they stated that the average electrical rate increases will be 93 to 267% following data center construction. Finally, will there be new high voltage lines installed along Cedar Crest and Mock Chunk roads? And if so, is there sufficient land for widening the easement that those high voltage lines require? I realize you cannot answer all these questions, but this is an enormous concern not only for the residents of South Whitehall Township, but also for the entire Lehigh Valley and beyond. And Mr. Mark, just to address what you asked before, if I come back to address anyone in the township, as new information is provided, my speech will change to reflect that. Okay?
Yeah, 'cause none of us are really prepared. We don't have any plans in front of us. And of course,
Right.
there's
I
no professionals
understand
here
that.
from the developers to answer any questions. So, but that's fine. Sure.
Yeah, we just want to drop in our concerns and the concerns of our neighbors, your neighbors, and people beyond. Some people think that just South Whitehall Township will be affected by this. I said, oh no. If you pay PPL for your electric bill, you're going to be affected, and who knows how far it's going to go. And also, what precedent might we set? So all things to think about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Dave, has PPL, they did a little meeting about their extension for this project, correct?
Yeah, they had a open house for residents affected. So there are plans.
Maybe they do it again. I'm assuming you didn't know, but.
No, it was only for residents affected.
Okay.
And they have procedures and.
Maybe ping PPL and
Yeah.
they come to the meeting that the applicant comes to.
There's
just a thought. Or
we're trying to get a.
Sorry to mug
It's
up
like-
the works, but I know just.
To the site.
Yeah, I mean, they're PPL.
We're trying to get an open
start.
house with DEP, the applicant, and all the state agencies and PPL all in the same room to answer a lot of the questions. It's a state meeting, so we have to kind of work with them to see if we can get it to happen, but we're certainly advocating for that.
Right. I believe, doesn't PPL, they have like a fact sheet out and like a website set up for it?
Do they? So I can
I've
reach
seen
out to PPL and see what information's out there and what they can share. I have to figure out where to put it, but
Yeah, it was proposing the transmission lines going
Okay.
through Isaac Walton.
okay. I don't know what Isaac Walton is.
It's a forested block of land.
Okay.
Yeah.
I used to work at PPL, but not in transmission or generation. It was in residential conservation. But I think that sometimes people think that Atlas said they were going to, from what I understand, they're going to pay for the substation, the new substation, and run the lines. Substations aren't generation plants, and people need to understand that. So they don't make the electricity. Okay, thank you.
Great.
Gary Jedlovic, 4107 Grace Virginia Court, South Whitehall Township. Appreciate, like everyone else said, the opportunity to come here and express some of our concerns about things that are going on in the community in South Whitehall Township. I also want to briefly talk about our concerns about the proposed data center. In South Whitehall Township, we're fortunate to have 4 volunteer fire departments that respond to our emergencies and in our community. Greenewalds Fire and Rescue, Centronia, Woodlawn Volunteer Fire Departments, and Tri-Clover Fire Company all provide our fire protection and support services. Woodlawn would likely provide fire protection. Woodlawn would likely be the unit that responds to emergency in my community just down the street, as well as even in this building here. It's also that they could be the one that would respond to any incident at the new proposed data center. People in my retirement community are concerned about the impact of the data center located at South Whitehall Township on this service that we rely upon for fire protection right now. We suspect that the emergency response requirements for data centers are extensive and unique, and that first responders will need specialized personal protective equipment and training to respond to any incident that could occur at the data center. The costs associated with this training, drills, and emergency services should not be borne by supporters of the local volunteer responders, but should be fully supported by the data centers themselves. So with that as an introduction and background, we have a couple questions about this in relationship to that type of support. How will South Whitehall Township ensure that none of the associated costs that I alluded to will be passed on to me as a volunteer who contributes to these volunteer fire departments or other revenue sources that support these volunteer fire departments? And second, could South Whitehall Township actually insist that these services, the fire and protection services, be provided by the data centers on site and be totally supported by the data center, eliminating the logistical and financial burden on the volunteer fire departments? Thank you very much for your time and consideration. I think I speak for all of us here with the data centers that we've seen you taking lots of notes, which is really good. Maybe we're raising a few concerns that as we follow through this process, that will have an impact to make the data center, if it is approved, a safer place in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, some of you probably recognize me. I know you do. Dave, I spoke in January, so I was here when the two gentlemen were here with about their meeting, and then I asked about the trees. So I'm that person. My name is Yvette Coons. I live at 2364 Route 309, Orfield. And I won't go over the things they discussed. We all know about that, and I've done it before. So I'm Swiss cheesing my speech because I don't want to repeat everything. But we were talking about the proposal as it is with the dirty data center. I call them dirty data centers because they pollute. So we don't have to discuss the light, noise, or other pollutions or the electricity or water too much. So I'm going to skip a little bit and just say about some of the things they can do, but they aren't, and I don't know that they will. Is that they should generate their own energy at their own cost. There are sustainable data centers, and we're paying more, so we shouldn't have to pay more, and we can't use that for an excuse to reject a proposal. But we would like to stop pollution, we would like them to, to use, like I said, I have to Swiss cheese this now. They should generate their own energy, and they can use renewable wind or solar energy. They can use lithium-ion batteries instead of the lead acid batteries and do safe recycling. They should generate their own energy at their own cost instead of causing power outages and higher energy costs for residents. They should not deprive residents of potable water. Residents have been conserving water, and we are worried about our wells will run dry. And I know somebody mentioned about the water that they're saying that they're not going to be using water, but we know that they will be. Even just to have something as big as that, you're going to be using water. They can't tell us otherwise. And again, I'm trying to pick through things that were already discussed. But instead of drinking water, they can use recycled or non-potable water and use treated municipal wastewater. Now, I heard them saying about the sand mound, which is a nightmare. I mean, that's a nightmare for residents, let alone a business. So that's a concern. And I don't know that you're running or have run anything on that street because I moved a while back. And do you have any of this public waste?
There's no public sewer.
And it's right near the high school. So that's what I was wondering if, even if it was, I didn't think so. So that's a concern right there. But if that were the case, that they can do something, because I don't know how they're going to, all these things that I'm looking at, can they do this? Can they use it? I don't see how they could do this at this location. And I thought, if they're going to use the water, are they going to do something like make us, do you remember about a decade ago, for any of you who are here that long, we actually paid to repair Ware's Dam? Okay, because I used to live right there on that hill where that barn is on 2400 Ware Mill Road. And we repaired it. And now I think they're going to try to get rid of the dams, thinking that's going to help mess up the fishing and everything and people's water. I just feel like that's another issue we're going to deal with. And we can't replace drinking water. And we still know that they're going to use that water. We can't do a rain dance. We can't, I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't think so, not at my age. But I don't think I could do a rain dance to make it happen, or I would have done it by now instead of conserving water and bird bathing it instead of taking nice hot showers, right? Because we're conserving water. Meanwhile, they're going to use water, the energy and everything all at our expense. But we should require data centers to report their total energy and water use to the DEP, to the Department of Environmental Protection each year, and they should disclose what steps they're taking to improve efficiency and reduce consumption to protect water resources and minimize pollution. They should have to share that information with you, locally and at all levels, so that we all know, have transparency and know what they're doing. We don't know what they're doing, and we don't know what we're getting, and it's hard to even keep track of what they're doing, especially right now. Federally, they're, repealing and being very lax on the pollution and stuff and the effects on the environment. We will have to take that on from here. So we're going to have to find a way, and it has to be something transparent because everyone is concerned about this. I have asthma. I've said it in my previous speech about I'm concerned with all those things, how it's going to affect us. And I don't, like I said, I don't want to repeat everything I already discussed, but I am going to repeat one thing I said in another speech about the farmland. We wanted a farmland there. That's why we're here. We voted to have, pay extra taxes for the farmland, and we're concerned with the farmland. And let's see, I don't want to read everything, but
yeah, your 5 minutes.
There's something in the state.
You went over your 5 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was what I was trying to figure out. I wish I would have been able to.
Sorry about that.
That was the important one. Oh.
Yes, there will be another time.
Next time you can go first, and then you won't have to cut it up.
Anyone else?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Suzanne Glatz. I live at 5223 Blue Sky Drive. And now for something completely different, I actually came here to talk about data centers, and I can only say that as an ex-PJM employee, what you heard about the shortfall is entirely accurate. In fact, actually, it's much more dire. I could tell you more about it, and I will do that at the next one. But I'm going to talk about homeowner associations. I live in a homeowner association, and while they can be handy when you first build them and get new communities relatively quickly, and I heard discussions about housing, the reality is that once the developer moves out, homeowners are seriously at risk for abuse by sometimes just a handful of homeowners. I am dealing with this right now where I am being excessively fined. I have other people in my community that are being fined. I have been on the board and kicked off because I questioned things with what the board is doing. I have received letters from a lawyer that had no evidence, and they are not following our bylaws. And the Pennsylvania laws are so weak. Our HOA requires only one annual public meeting, and I shouldn't even say public, one meeting a year for homeowners to raise issues. You cannot record the meeting. There's no transparency. Board meeting minutes are pathetically sparse with 3 sentences. They don't tell you anything. And then the board meeting that I went into, the other board members lied and did not tell what actually happened, and then spent funds, relatively modest funds, but nonetheless funds that were not authorized through a proper vote. The problem is, once you are subject to this as a homeowner, you have no recourse but to hire a lawyer and spend a lot of money. And so I want you to be aware the next time you have a homeowner association, that you bring in the abuse that they are causing. I have my one neighbor who had police officers at his house tonight to take his phone because he said he recorded a call because it's the only way you can prove the lies that these people are telling. It's absurd. I have lost more sleep. It's interfered with my job, with my personal life, with my ability to do a lot of other more important things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry to hear that.
My name is Joel Gilly. I live at 2977 Mock Chunk Road. And I'd like to share a few thoughts and a few comments. First, Mark, to your point, we've been amazed at how many people in this community have no idea what is happening. There's finally are some articles, and just as, little grassroots folks, when you go to the township and you look at the scope of the plans and you look at the drawings and you look at the conversations between PPL and the plans with PPL, it feels like a steamroller. It feels like a fait accompli, and we really hope it is not. I'll share a couple of quick thoughts for the recording for the township. Going back to the developer. Number one, and I don't know for certain if these are in the 101 pages or whatever it was that went back. Hi, Chris. But our understanding is that when construction like this happens, the developer dewaters the area, sucks the water out to create the foundation for the construction. Is that going to happen? If it does, how are we going to protect wells in the area? If I were dewatering that area, and I've not driven or walked around on the property, but I think where it drops off and goes down to the chemical plant would be the place that I would pump water, because it's going to go to the creek and then you don't have to worry about it. Is it possible that that's going to accelerate the escape of those retention ponds down at the chemical plant, those poisoned areas? That's a big concern about that. What happens, the developer should be responsible for decommissioning this area. My understanding is that data centers have about a 5 to 7 year life, and then they've got to sort of be redone or put in mothballs. In 10 years, when Elon Musk puts them all up in space, who's going to bear the cost of decommissioning these properties? And lastly, is the township starting to put away funds for the lawsuits for reduction in property values that are going to come as a result of this? A couple other quick comments. Just the property shares Jordan and Copley watersheds. I don't know how their project is not going to impact those watersheds. As you guys well know, when Tractor Supply put that property, you always require basins and all that, the runoff and all that stuff. Just doesn't seem possible that we're not going to mess around with our watersheds. The main comments that I want to make, though, is around the schools. It just seems so unconscionable to place this data center right across the street from Parkland High School and in the proximity to the other schools that they're in. I believe, if I remember correctly, the sound study talks about sound traveling 7 miles from the property. There are definitive studies about the impact of the constant drone of these data centers on the ability to concentrate and learn. One of the folks had talked about the DBC, I think it's called, sort of those low tones. My understanding from a little bit of research and an engineering buddy of mine, that those are not measured well in the regular studies, and that vibration has been known to even cause people's eyes to vibrate and have blurred vision because of those low sound waves. It's just incredible to me that we're going to risk destroying the best school district in the Lehigh Valley by placing a data center in that position. There's lots of other stuff, and you know, there's so many unknowns about data centers and what's going to happen in the years ahead. It seems irresponsible to place it there. I'm not anti-technology. I'm not anti-data center, but you know, there's areas in the coal regions. There's lots of areas that don't have high density of communities, and those are appropriate places for data centers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'd like to ask David, before we passed and talked about our zone or our data center zoning ordinance and overlay, South Whitehall had no data center ordinance in place.
That's correct.
So it's important to understand that they could have beat us to the punch and forced us to accept the data center where they're going to be today. I can't think of the name of it, but if there's no zoning in place for a use, they're allowed to do it anywhere in the township. They could have done it anywhere. What the township did was preempt that by creating an area that it's allowed for it. As a township, you can't say, well, we don't want any mobile home parks in our township, and we don't want any adult bookstores. You have to have an area for each use. This was the area that the township picked that made the most sense for this use. This is already zoned industrial. So tomorrow they could come in with a 5 million square foot warehouse by right. And they could use a well and they could use a septic system for it. Go ahead. You should probably.
I don't know that everyone knows this, but that the farmland we're talking about, the undeveloped farmland, we think of it as zoned as farmland, and it had been changed because of that thing for industrial use for the data centers. That was kind of pushed on us.
It's been industrial for a very, very, very long time.
Has it been? Because
Yes.
I don't think people know it,
Because there's a
because they
chemical
just
plant.
assume that the land there, and the same thing with the land that PP&L bought on Herman Lane.
No, that's been zoned commercial for industrial for a while now.
It's just a house is on a little tiny road that's not a highway. How is that considered? Everything is just industrial if somebody wants to take it and do this to our
There's
township.
600 plus acres of land that's zoned industrial.
The per adoption, there's a presentation online. So Chris could probably tell you
I
exactly where.
glanced at it a little bit.
So
but I was
it
kind
talks
of
about the
annoyed.
history of the property,
Right.
and when it was first zoned
Yeah,
industrial. So that's all in that
Right,
presentation. So that
but
might
what
be
I'm
a good
saying for
place to-
the average resident is saying, that was a farm for decades, probably before I was born. And they're saying, that's farmland, we voted for farmland, paying more
So,
taxes for
and
farmland.
that's some of, you heard the discussion about getting more information in the public's
Right.
hands.
I think
Zoning
people are
is,
just angry now that
Yeah,
this kind of, like
zoning-
you said, steamrolled was the word.
zoning is something that kind of lays above the land.
Right.
And it doesn't, you don't have
Right.
to be that use.
Right.
It's something that can happen. And
Yeah.
that's one of the misconceptions with,
But it's strange for us to think about how somebody else wants to try to zone their property and have trouble, but these other people can zone. And I don't know if
So
it has to do with the footage or
the
not.
municipality
Right.
zones properties.
Right.
So the Board of Commissioners adopts zoning. Planning Commission makes recommendations for zoning.
Yeah.
And that's all done through the municipality. It's not,
Right.
residents can ask, people can ask.
Because I'm sure if the residents knew, they would have complained then.
Well, you have to, sorry to chime in, but like Mark said, per the state law, we can make the zoning. But per the state law that we must follow, that we're governed by, we have to offer each
certain amount
use or in
for
zoning.
each thing.
In every
I know, it's just
municipality.
hard for us to understand why you would put something near the school or near the water or,
School came second. The industrial zone was zoned industrial before the school got there.
No, I know that. I know, I'm just saying, I think a lot of people are just going to say, why there? But I guess when you're thinking about it, what else would it be, right? Is what you're saying to us, but we're still just kind of disgusted because if we know what the effects are going to be.
Yeah.
We wish it was something else other than that. If it was houses, it wouldn't be as big of a deal as something that's going to be a dirty data center.
I would just offer that if you put, 3,000 houses there.
Oh, I know. I didn't say 3,000.
No, I know, but I'm just saying that's what you could fit there. I'm just and just.
I wanted it to be farmland.
Everybody wants it to be farmland.
But I mean, well,
it's just something to think. I would, and all of you've offered us suggestions. And I also want to say that if you put 3,000 houses there in lieu of a data center or a warehouse that would have less people working there.
Right.
Aside, I know there's utilities and everything that you've all mentioned, but 3,000 houses, 3,000 families, that would put an exorbitant load and suck on utilities and on township resources too.
Well, the data center uses as much as 50,000 homes, and I don't think there's going to be 50,000 homes put on that land.
Fair.
But and the other thing is, like we said, if that's what's going to be there, it should be a clean, sustainable data center. That's why the speech I had today was, if we're stuck with a data center, although I would still try to do anything I could. I'm going to go climb a tree and find an endangered species if I can. But if I was able to do that, I would do that. But I just saying that I think that regardless of all the explanations, people are going to be upset. And I've been like, I haven't even slept because I keep getting calls and emails day and night from North Whitehall, and I live in South Whitehall because I live in Orfield. And they said, what can we do? I said, well, you can't come to this, but you can state on the record, instead of complaining on the internet, go state on the record at the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. They don't make the final decision, but you aren't a resident in South Whitehall. And if you go to your township, it's not going into your township. So, everybody's trying to find out a way and say, please do something. And, like I said, I had that speech, but all those other people came ahead of me and I didn't want to repeat all that. But now I'm just asking these questions on behalf of all these people that asked me. I know what they're going to say. They didn't read, like they said, they didn't read all that stuff. They didn't know what we went through when I brought up the thing about the trees, or when they cut down all those trees and pull up all those roots and wait until there's all those big holes where the trees used to be, and then it's going to be all mud and it's going to come down. They're going to have sinkholes and, it's going to ruin the road and everything. It's going to be a mess.
Or we have dirt police to handle that.
Yeah.
It's called Lehigh Valley or Lehigh County Conservation District. So.
I know. That's what he was complaining about, my conservation shirt when I was here in January. That was the big fun that was here. So some of the people here probably, I know, or if you're on the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission thing, that January when it snowed, remember, we had a foot of snow. So that's what I was doing, was all this stuff on the meetings. And that's why the guy was mad at me, because I didn't know he was going to be here. And I kind of asked him that question about the trees. So he's probably still counting the trees. So for the people who don't know about that story about the trees, you have to replace each tree that you cut down, or you have to pay. So you have to count each tree. And all that stuff. So I guess he was kind of mad about that I brought that up, but whatever delays they could do until we can try to find out some other better solution. But I understand that you have to go with the laws, and we are all still trying to learn, and those are evolving, and we're trying to change the laws. I have another quick question about when we're changing the laws, the proposal is in but not accepted. Are we going to have a problem like Lower Macungie, where they said, oh, well, we
have the zoning code in place.
You have
already.
A zoning code, which people don't really know about the data center thing because it kind of happened.
They'll be beholden to it per law. We have a great solicitor
Yeah, I saw that something happened a few years ago that we were not aware of that, because, I wasn't paying attention to that because I was dealing with dying parents and this kind of thing going on, people with cancer and all this fun stuff. So I was not looking at these papers every day. Like I'm.
The zoning's been in place for a very long time.
More than 10 years, because I've been
industrial.
caregiving.
So
yeah, so I don't.
This property was industrial use before zoning existed in the township.
Okay.
And
but you
as
mean
of
from
the
before,
first,
because I lived in Lone
was
Country
Trojan
for a minute
powder.
too.
as of the
Talking about
first
Trojan,
zoning
yeah,
ordinance
Trojan thing.
adopted,
Right.
this entire property has been industrial and hasn't changed in
Like
any
the
zoning
70s?
ordinance
Yeah.
since the 1960s.
Okay. I'm not that old. I'm old, but I'm not
the
that old.
important thing to understand is probably the only way the data center doesn't happen is if the data center decides they don't want to happen.
Yeah,
it is
that's
allowed
why
there at this point, and I think our job is to steward as best we can to imply as many conditions as legally possible.
Exactly. That's what I was looking at.
And
That's
be
why I
stewards.
started.
Other than that, I think it's probably going to be there unless they don't want to be there.
we can't stop it. We
Right.
have the right to control and regulate.
Regulate it. Well, that's, well, yeah, put some, rules to it and then have to basically regulate it. The other question I had in my speech was who's going to regulate it? How often? Because they could say, oh yeah, we're compliant. And then what do they only check once a year? Is it once?
What's legal under the law?
Right. Well, we don't.
There's municipalities planning code and there's the township ordinances, and it's
Right.
going to be, planning is a long drawn out process.
Oh, I know. It's going to be years till
There's
it's
going
there.
to be a lot of meetings. There's going to be a lot of submissions, resubmissions, and they'll be coming back multiple times. So
Right.
everyone here will have a lot of opportunity to speak. That this isn't going to be a matter of months.
Oh, I know it's going to be years. And I
it's
said
going
that's
to
why I
be a
was slow
long
rolling and bringing up a few things at a
process.
time.
So-
But they came in here and brought some other things up. I'm like, oh, save that sewer one for later. Because yeah, I was trying to slow roll this as long as possible. I'd rather drop dead first before I see it there, but that's probably what'll happen when it gets here. So, but thank you for answering my questions,
Thank
because
you.
I know that I got a lot of questions on behalf of the people who couldn't be.
I think we have
All
another
right. Is
person.
there someone
Just
behind?
just one word of clarification. We all, those who are not naive or whatever, understand that it's been industrial forever. Those who got involved understand the PERT. We appreciate all that work and effort. My position and the position, I think, of the 1,800 people plus that have signed the petition is that it is damaging to the health, potentially damaging to the health and welfare of students at Parkland High School and the surrounding schools. And I don't know how you get the research. I mean, there's a lot of research out there about this. So I just hope that, to me, Mark, that is the one reason, that's the one hook that the
I got two
township has.
kids there myself. I understand it.
Yeah.
I understand it.
Yeah, to be able to be able to deny it without getting sued. So anyway, thank you.
All right, everyone, please just come to the podium. We can't have people speaking out in the audience.
I would also add that we do have a 5-minute time limit in place, which does not mean that you get multiple opportunities at 5 minutes.
I apologize.
Okay,
I didn't use
thank
all
you.
5 minutes, so this will be a 1-minute question. What I heard tonight was you said that it's an industrial use, and my question would be, would a power plant, could you locate a power plant under that regulation? And the reason,
The PUC actually has more freedom to locate a power plant through eminent domain. If
They
they
do,
consider
when
the
they're
power plant
needed.
more important to the general public than they do to the landowner. The
But
same
then-
way they're going to run the power line to this site, they're going to take right away to do the power line.
so, but if that was a power plant, would that come before here?
Yeah, to an extent, sure.
To an extent, because the amount of generation that they are building is essentially like building a power plant. And so to think about it as backup generation, it could be very misleading. In reality, it's really going to become an alternate power source. And the expectation that they will run is going to be much higher going forward. You cannot look at historical uses because of the amount of generation shortfall that's going to happen. So
Understood.
just to put that in context.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for the additional.
All right. All right, and once again, it's a, well, you can say your piece, but there's a 5-minute time limit. So if you've come up already, that was your opportunity, and you'll have another opportunity next month.
I just have a brief question, Gary Jedlovic. We know it's a long process, and the developers are going to come here again and probably again. Does the commission have any idea when they're going to come again with a revised plan?
Yeah, so on the township website, there's always a scrolling list of all the upcoming meetings. So you can always click the planning commission link and look at the agenda. And the agenda is posted probably a week before the meeting. So you can always check the agenda to see what's going to be on the.
So the deadlines for submission for resubmission is the second Thursday of the month for the following month's meeting. So today was the deadline for April. April will be for May. We didn't get one today. So the next possible meeting would be the May meeting.
I think we understand that process. I guess I'm asking if you can read between the lines when you think they may be ready to come back again. I mean, is that going to be next month or a year from now or somewhere in between?
I was confident it wouldn't be today. They have 101 pages of comments to go through. So yeah, I think next month, the submission April for May is optimistic on their part, but that's the next possible resubmission.
All right, thank you for your frankness.
Yep.
And they haven't done all.
Hey, anyone else? All right. Oh, okay.
Hi, Laurie Gilly, 2977 Mock Chunk Road. There is a deadline for that submission of 120 days, correct? They have to come up before May, don't they?
No. They can give the township more time to review the plan.
Yeah.
But it's not incumbent on the developer within those 120 days to come back. grup
I thought that once they submitted the plan, they had 120 days to come back for us to roll on it.
Without the waiver, we have waivers of time limitations, so that we get a letter that says we'll extend it another 60 days, 90 days. If it gets to the point where we're not getting those extensions, that's when we can come back and deny it because they haven't provided us enough.
So they're actually giving us an extension. We didn't give them an extension.
Correct.
That's per state code
Because the
municipalities.
municipality has a certain set deadline to act on land development applications, and that's by state law.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christina Kropp. I live in 13 South 38th Street. It borders South Whitehall and Allentown. So I wasn't really sure if I'm really permitted to be here, but I did hear about the data center. I grew up around here. I went to Parkland High School. I think I just had a few comments about, like, I guess the zoning, because I think at least for just the locals, the zoning doesn't necessarily matter to us. I think whether or not it was industrial, I think we do see that as a suburban neighborhood. We do see that as somewhere quiet for our generation to grow up, to have ensured success. Sorry, this is the first time I've ever done something, so I'm going to be a little shaky. I think the locals are always going to oppose data centers in their area. And I think the hyper-specific area of it being right next to the school, right next to the children, is the extra cause for concern, because let me catch my breath here. The industrial zoning doesn't necessarily matter to us when we know that the impact of the data center is going to impact the children even more. We know elderly and we know children are impacted by these things significantly more than the healthy person. I think if we proposed this data center any other zone that was industrial, maybe it would have been fine. I think it's very concerning for all of us that it's by the school. The children are going to see these impacts. The neighbors of those places are going to see those impacts. I don't think it really, I think it's redundant to add that those places are industrial, because whether we like it or not, the kids still go there. They still breathe that air. They still have to turn on the sink to wash their hands. I know we already have a lead pipe replacement program going on in that, just in the Lehigh Valley in general. So we're already dealing with a lot of these pollutants. We live in a valley, so the pollutants themselves get, kind of bad if it gets better or worse weather. I think very specifically this area was probably not the best zone, industrial zone, to put this in. So I think, I know that we're limited, and I know that it's nothing we can do because it's already zoned. They can do whatever they want with it, but I think, I don't know, that's very disheartening as a member of the community to hear that there's been pretty much nothing we can do to. The collective can't have the community that they want, and it's really just up to the people in power, and that just kind of sucks.
Well, I think across the board, having this zoning district anywhere in the township is what is going to make anyone angry. I don't think there's any ideal place for it. If it was put somewhere else, there's going to be people living in that location that aren't going to like it. So I understand that. I think we all understand it. But as it was discussed, zoning, there has to be zoning put aside for that use. And we understand wherever it would be put, people aren't going to be happy with it, but it's something that has to be done.
Right. I think I'm just here to voice my concern that we're okay with doing that next to the children, especially with all of the evidence, the surmountable evidence that, data centers have very severe impact on health for just normal, healthy people, let alone children. So I think that's all the comments I have. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, sir.
So for courtesy of the floor, I always go over what we received, and we'll hear for next month's meeting. We received a resubmission for St. Joe's Solar Project, and that's the only submission we had. So that'll be on the agenda for next month.
Thank you. Is there anyone online that has any questions, comments?
Thank you.
Okay. Great. Thanks everyone for attending and providing your input. We'll move on.
Gonna make a vote to adjourn.
Yes. All right. So item number 9, adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, I'll second it. So moved. All right. We were just ending.